Okay, I think that's everyone's comments, right, from the committee at this point. Back to you, Mr. Leno, to address those questions and concerns.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You've been very generous with you and your committee's time. So I've taken, I think, pretty good notes, so I'll try and get all of these issues addressed. With regard to consumer education, clearly this bill can't do what we'd all, or at least I'd appreciate the state doing with regard to consumer education, and that would cost a lot of money, which this bill is not going to attempt to do. But I would argue that labeling versus non-labeling, at least minimally, can begin a conversation. So a consumer who has no familiarity with this sees a label, either with or without. It's going to start, if not an internal conversation, an external one with the salesperson. And then that education begins. Without any labels whatsoever, it's just not going to happen. And with regard to one label or two labels, again, consumers, if they're looking for a label, are looking for a label that may say, because they know something about the subject matter, that it does not contain. And if they can't find that label, they have no certainty. And they may turn to the salesperson and say, does this contain? And they won't know. It's incomplete. So that's point one. And point two, because it is based on the earlier bill that deals with the labeling of upholstered furniture, the regulatory scheme at the Bureau of Home Furnishings is intact and will not need to be changed. So there'll be no additional cost to the Bureau. If we leave off one of the labels, they have told us they'll have to proactively go out and test products that don't have a label to see if they're in compliance or not. That's going to cost the state a lot of money, and that's going to kill the bill, finally, either in appropriations or on the governor's desk. So for both reasons, I think it's important, and it's no hardship to the manufacturers. As was already mentioned in the earlier testimony by Aaron, that for how many years did you say? 36 years?
39 years.
39 years. Before they were deemed to be non-fire risk products, they had to comply with TB 117. They had to label. They no longer, for the past 18 months, have had to label. Prices didn't come down as a result of their dropping that little label. It would be inconsistent for them to say we have to raise our costs. Or is it going to cost us more because we have to add a label? So it's not onerous. It is literally pennies to add that label. So it's just not onerous. With regard to toxic, non-toxic, Assemblywoman Eggman, I did not use the word non-toxic. I did periodically throw in toxic. If I'd been consistent, I would have used it or not used it. In the governor's press release of June of 2013, when he directed his Bureau of Home Furnishings to revisit the 40-year-old TB 117 and bring it into the 21st century, he himself used the word toxic or dangerous flame retardants 11 times in a single-page, double-spaced press release. He was very definitive about it and communicated clearly to the public why he was bringing TB 117 into the 21st century. There will be further benefits to firefighters, Assemblyman Wood, in the years to come, and that's why they're in support of the bill to the degree, and again, we're not trying to ban. I've tried that. It's not happening. We're just trying to better inform consumers, which is, I suspect, why you are supporting, one of the reasons you're supporting the bill. And over time, there will be a market signal that more consumers want a product without than with. And that, over time, will reduce the amount of toxins in homes and in office buildings where these fires occur. And for anyone who's interested in this, really fascinating, it doesn't sound like it by the description, but there's a 90-minute documentary called Toxic Hot Seat, which is all about this subject of toxic flame retardants. And when I told some of my friends they were going to sit down and watch this with me, they said, a 90-minute documentary on toxic flame retardants? But it is a fascinating tale with a lot of drama, much of it caused by a Pulitzer Prize winning investigative report by the Chicago Tribune, which looked into this and exposed all of the lies of the chemical industry. And in fact, a doctor who had been brought by the lobbyists, different lobbyists, from the chemical industry a few years back to testify against one of our bills, which they killed, was revealed in this investigative report to have lied to our committee, Senate B&P, where our bill died, by dreaming up a story about an infant that had died in a horrible fire in its crib. A candle supposedly fell over, and there were no toxic flame, there were no flame retardants in the crib, and the child died a horrible death. He traveled from state to state, was paid significant amounts of money, in fact, $250,000 over a few-year period, to tell the story. But in some states, the infant was 2 months old. In some states, the infant was 9 months old. When the Chicago Tribune reporter got to this guy, Dr. Heimbach, he said, well, I was just aggregating some stories, and in fact, if I had been under oath, I would have told the story differently, but I wasn't. He's no longer Dr. Heimbach. He has had his medical license revoked because of the misinformation he spread on behalf of Citizens for Fire Safety, which no longer exists because the Chicago Tribune exposed them. They have been discredited, disgraced, and dishonored. They're not here anymore. I would ask your aye vote.
Thank you very much. Well, I wrote down the name of the documentary and plan to bore my family.
HBO. You can get it on HBO.
Because they're actually, I think what's kind of risen to the surface here is that is the issue of education, and that a lot of us don't know the most current information, and there is an opportunity not only to support the bill but to get educated around the issues. And
it's also my screen debut, so please.
Yes, and yes, and yes, look for his walk-on in the movie. So I thank the committee for their thoughtful comments. I hope that their questions were addressed in the response, and certainly this is a very important issue. And I also am a mother and grandmother, and I find that there is just a growing self-education happening with young families. More and more products are on their own becoming more and more, less and less toxic and more environmentally friendly and human friendly. And I think that there is a real movement, and that this bill fits in with what consumers in general, particularly here in California, are really requiring and wanting to see. Doesn't mean everyone understands all the issues, but I think one of our goals is to achieve that educational process. And the first step here is to put it out there for them to begin to understand these issues. So thank you very much for this bill and for your work and really the compromises that you made, which are significant also. But I do think it's a great step. With that, we have a motion. We need a second. Second. Thank you. And this is a do pass as amended to ESTM.
Bonilla.
Aye.
Bonilla, aye. Jones. Jones not voting. Baker. Aye. Baker, aye. Bloom.
Aye.
Bloom, aye. Campos. Campos, aye. Chang. Aye. Chang, aye. Dodd. Aye. Dodd, aye. Eggman. Aye. Eggman, aye. Gatto. Holden. Aye. Holden, aye. Mullen. Aye. Mullen, aye. Ting. Aye. Ting, aye. Wilk.
Not voting.
Wilk not voting. Wood.
Aye.
Wood, aye.
11-0, the measure is out.
Thank you very much for the thorough conversation and for your support.
Thank you. I'll keep the roll open for absent members and those who need to add on. And we have 2 bills on call, so we do need members to vote. We will start with the ones on call, which item number 8, SB 468, Hill.
It'll be covered one way or the other.
No problem. No, I don't have any doubt.
Campos. Campos, aye. Gatto. Holden. Holden, aye. Mullen. Mullen, aye.
Thank you. 10-3, the measure is out. Next item on call is item number 12, SB 643, McGuire.
Chang. Not voting. Chang not voting. Holden. Holden not voting. Ting. Aye. Ting, aye.
8-2, the measure's out by the skin of its teeth. Gave us a scare, Mr. Holden. Would have had to deny you your lunch. Let's add on the other. Yes, add-ons, starting with SB 149, Stone. We'll just go down the list now.
Gatto. Holden. Holden, aye. Ting.
Aye.
Ting, aye. Measures out.
Measures out. SB 287, Weso.
Campos. Campos, aye. Chang. Chang, aye. Holden. Holden, aye. Measures out.
Measure is out. SB 396, Hill.
Campos. Campos, aye. Chang. Chang, aye. Gatto. Holden. Holden, aye. Mullen. Mullen, aye. Ting.
Aye.
Ting, aye. Measures out.
Measures out. SB 453, Pan.
Gatto. Holden. Holden, aye. Ting.
Aye.
Ting, aye.
11-0.
Measures out.
SB 467, Hill.
Campos. Campos, aye. Chang. Chang, aye. Gatto. Holden. Holden, aye. Mullen. Mullen, aye. Ting.
No.
Ting, no. Measures out.
And Gatto just walked in. 6. Okay. SB 468, Hill.
Gatto.
Aye.
Gatto, aye. Measures out.
SB 469.
Campos. Campos, aye. Gatto. Gatto, aye. Holden. Holden, aye. Mullen. Mullen, aye. Measures out.
Measure is out. SB 479, Bates.
Eggman. Eggman, aye. Gatto. Gatto, aye. Holden. Holden, aye. Measures out.
The measure is out. SB 622. Oh, that was put over. SB 643, McGuire. Oh, we did that.
Yeah, everybody's on there.
Looks like we need to. SB, what is that? 671, Hill.
Campos. Campos, aye. Holden. Holden, aye. Mullen. Mullen, aye. Measures out.
SB 763, Leno.
Gatto. Gatto, aye.
Just sounded like you were, struggling with that one. Aye.
Consent calendar.
Okay, the consent calendar.
Campos. Campos, aye. Chang. Chang, aye. Gatto. Gatto, aye. Holden. Holden, aye. Mullen. Mullen, aye. Ting. Ting, aye.
And I think it's just Mr. Gatto needs to add on at the first half. Okay.
Thank you.
Are the nurses here?
Yes, they're right outside the member store waiting